In this video, we will be learning about choosing your topic. If you're in the public speaking COM 101 class, this will be your term topic that you will use for speeches 3 and 4. If you're in the applied communication class, which is COM 115, this will be the instructions that you'll follow for choosing your persuasive speech topic. I've heard from students over the years that choosing a topic for a speech is one of the most difficult things that they're asked to do in the course. And I think there's a lot of reasons for this. I think one of the main ones is that it's probably the only time really in most people's lives that they'll be asked to get up and speak, and it's really not about the topic. It's about you, the speaker. Usually if you're asked to speak, for example, at your job, it's about a project you're working on at the job, or something that's going on there. If you're asked to speak at a civic organization, it's about whatever's being advocated for. If you're asked to speak to a group in the community, it's because of the knowledge that you have. So most of the time we become the speaker at an event not because of who we are, but because of what we know and because of the knowledge and information that you have. So in a public speaking class or a communication class, it's kind of a unique situation where you're asked really to get up and speak and make a presentation, but it's about you more than it is about the topic. So what that means is that I don't want you stressing out over topics. Now there are some criteria that you need to meet, and there are reasons for that, and we'll discuss some of those as we go through it, but don't get too stressed out about topics. Later on we'll talk about some topics that you should avoid, and we'll talk about what you need to submit and turn in. So the Committee on Public Speaking at the American Communication Association many years ago got together and identified 8 competencies that a good public speaker should be able to do. 8 things, 8 behaviors, 8 skill sets, if you will, that you should have as a good public speaker. And the first one, competency number 1, is chooses and narrows topic appropriate for audience and occasion. So the key word there really is appropriate. That's the most important thing, is you have to keep your audience in mind, and you want to make sure that you have a topic that's going to work well in the context of our class. Also narrow, meaning that you don't want something that's overly broad. You want to be very specific about what it is that you're going to be speaking about and what your topic is. So for example, if you wanted to choose the topic of immigration, well, do you mean legal immigration or illegal immigration? Do you mean reforming immigration? Do you mean dealing with people who have immigrated to this country or overstayed their visa without the proper documentation? What exactly does that mean? So you would want to narrow that down to exactly what you want to talk about. And that's important also for us as a class, because we might have 2 or 3 students who want to talk about immigration, and we still can have 2 or 3 different topics that deal with that general topic area, as long as everybody's really specific about it. So give some thought to your topic and how can you narrow it down. Also remember that it has to be narrow enough to be able to present the information in the time frame that we have. And be sure to refer to your syllabus for the prescribed time frames for each presentation. So for students in the public speaking class, our second speech, you need to be able to choose a topic for that one also. Really, it's not the focus of this presentation so much, and those of you in the COM 115 or applied communication, you won't be doing a demonstration speech, but for those of you in the public speaking, you do need to select a topic for that one also. I don't need to approve your topic in advance. Just keep in mind that it's got to be something appropriate for the audience and occasion. So obviously, it wouldn't want to be anything that involves illegal or illicit behaviors, anything that would be advocating harm for your audience or trying to teach them how to do something that would be bad for them or would be just generally inappropriate in our class. So let's keep it to a PG-13. Clearly, it can't be anything that involves the use of weapons also. So I had a student one time wanted to demonstrate how to take apart and clean a gun and put it back together, and clearly we can't bring guns on campus, so that wasn't going to work. Also keep in mind the time frame once again, and check what the time frame is. You have to be able to demonstrate within the prescribed time frame for what you're going to do. So some examples would be like how to perform CPR, or how to grip a golf club, how to swing a golf club, how to repot a plant. Probably the most popular topic that I see students doing has to do with food. Most of the students want to demonstrate how to make a recipe. And the way we do that in class is what I call the cooking show analogy. So that means that obviously we don't have a stove and an oven in class, but if you've ever watched a cooking show on TV, the chef is doing their presentation. They're making their speech. They're demonstrating how to mix up the dish, whatever it is they're preparing, and then when they're done, voila, they pull out a completed dish from the oven or the stove or wherever. They've already got it done in advance. And so that's the way we do it in class. If you want to do food, make sure you prepare the dish in advance and then prepare again for us as you demonstrate how to do it. Really important to keep in mind as you do these demonstration speeches that it is a demonstration, not an explanation. So it's not enough that you explain to us how to do something. You must actually physically demonstrate it. Show us how to do it. If you're doing food and you say, well, that means I've got to buy 2 of every ingredient, it's going to get expensive. Don't worry about that. It's okay if you, like for example, one of my favorite dishes that my wife makes is a traditional Filipino fruit salad, and it involves lots of ingredients and lots of canned goods like sweetened condensed milk and Nestle cream and canned fruits and things. And so if you were doing that, for example, you could just wash out the empty cans after you've made one in advance at home, bring the empty cans with you, and we'll pretend like we saw you dump the milk into the bowl and the fruit into the bowl instead of actually having to do 2. That's fine. I actually had a student one time demonstrated how to make a salad, and she took construction paper. She had already made the salad in advance, and then she took construction paper, cut little red circles for to represent tomatoes, and she cut green construction paper into look like pieces of lettuce and different colors to represent different vegetables that would be in the salad. And she made a construction paper tossed salad in class, but she had already made the salad before class. The other thing to remember if you're doing food is please type up the recipe and give everybody in class a copy. We'd like to be able to maybe prepare your recipe for our family at some point. So if you have any questions about those demonstration topics, you can ask me about it, but clearly you don't have to have it approved as long as you are mature enough to make sure it's something that is appropriate for the audience, that it is an actual demonstration, not an explanation. You're physically demonstrating something, and that it's something you can accomplish within the prescribed time frame for the speech, and you can find those time frames once again in your syllabus. Okay, so for choosing your term topic, for those of you in the public speaking class, that would be the one that you're going to use for speeches 3 and 4, your pro-con speech, and then your persuasive speech, and you will use the same topic you will present in speech 3, the pro-con. You'll present both sides of that topic in a fair and unbiased manner. You don't have a side, you don't agree with one or the other, you're just informing us. Remember, an informative speech is one that's designed to increase audience awareness or knowledge of the topic. Then for your persuasive speech, you'll use the same topic, but now you will pick a side. And remember, a persuasive speech is one that is designed to influence excuse me, audience attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. So in speech 3, for those of you in the public speaking class, it's an informative speech on your topic. Speech 4, for those of you in the public speaking class, is a persuasive speech on your topic. For those of you in the COM 115 or applied communication class, you're only doing one speech on the topic. It's only the persuasive, but you also have an ethical obligation to present some informative information in terms of both sides of the issue and what they are. So come to me with questions about that, or see those people who can help you out in the COM lab over at with the Writing Center. So let's jump right in here. There's 3 criteria that your topic has to meet. First of all, it needs to be a public policy issue. Secondly, it needs to be controversial, which public policy issues mostly are. Pretty much all are controversial. And then it needs to be contemporary. So let's talk about what those 3 things. So what exactly is a public policy issue? Well, Webster's defines a public policy issue, gives a couple of definitions for it. The first one is the governing policy within a community as embodied in its legislative and judicial enactments, which serve as a basis for determining what acts are to be regarded as contrary to the public good. The second one is the principle of law, by virtue of which acts contrary to the public good are held invalid. So what does all that mean? Well, it means what are the policies that our government passes? What are the laws? And a policy proposition or policy topic is any topic that really includes the word should. So when you choose your topic, it has to be a public policy, but it doesn't have to be a federal policy. In other words, it has to be something that the federal government in Washington is working on. It could be a state policy from the state of Nevada. It could be something that the Clark County or Las Vegas City Council is passing as an ordinance. It could be basically any public policy. It could even be something that the Nevada Board of Higher Education is passing that will affect students at CSN and UNLV, or for that matter something that the Faculty Senate and the president of CSN are passing that's going to affect faculty, staff, and students here at the college. So as long as it's a topic that you can do research on, which pretty much any of those you probably could, it can be any policy. Policy just means that you're arguing that something should be done or something should not be done. And as a general rule, we want to avoid arguing in favor of status quo, and we're going to talk about why that's important here in just a minute and what that means. But hopefully, if you have any questions about what we mean about public policy, here's some examples of what would not be a public policy. If you're submitted a topic that said teen pregnancy, that's not a public policy. If you submitted a topic that said Clark County Public Schools should make provisions to provide for the education of teenagers who have become pregnant while still in school, that would be a public policy. So make sure that you have a public policy topic. Our second criteria is that your topic has to be controversial. As I said, most public policy issues are controversial, but what that means basically is that there's two clear sides. People don't agree. People are arguing with each other over this, and they're not happy about it, and maybe they're holding protests, maybe they're writing letters to their state or federal representatives, maybe they're writing letters to the editor of the newspaper. Whatever they're doing, they disagree with some people are on one side, they disagree, other people on the other side, and they're supporting whatever that policy is. So the example I gave here was the abortion issue. I used that topic because it's not allowed for you to pick abortion as your topic for a speech, and so an example, using that as an example, hopefully won't be taking somebody's topic that they want to pick. So pro-choice is one side of the argument, pro-life is the other. I don't need to get into what those are. I think pretty much we all know what they are. If not, you could Google it and find out in a matter of seconds. But you see what I mean. These people don't agree with each other, right? They disagree completely. So that's what we mean by controversial. Simple enough, just two clear sides. Okay, so our third criterion, I mentioned earlier about status quo, we're going to talk about that, but it is that it's contemporary. So it means it's happening now and it's not yet resolved. Okay, so status quo is what we have now. That's a Latin term, means the situation we have right now. So you wouldn't want to pick, for example, here's an oldie but a goodie. The speed limit on interstate highways should be increased from 55 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour. Most of you are probably too young to have ever remembered driving when the speed limit on the interstate highways was 55 miles an hour, but that was a law that was passed a long time ago because there wasn't seatbelt laws. Most cars weren't safe. They didn't have airbags. Traffic accidents were a lot worse. And then as time went on, we began to see a push to increase those speed limits as cars got safer and things like that. Now the speed limit is at least 70, I think, pretty much everywhere on the interstate highways. Some places I've been, it's even more. Went through a stretch of highway in Texas a couple of years ago, and I think it was like 80 there. And a lot of places it's 75 in Arizona and things like that. But, it was a nightmare driving across country when the speed limit was 55. But would I want to argue that the speed limit on interstate highways should be increased from 55 miles an hour to 70 miles an hour when it's already been done? That's status quo. We've already have that. So it's got to be contemporary. It's got to be something that's not yet been done. So an example of that would be a bill that has been presented to Congress but not yet passed. The Nevada State Legislature doesn't meet all the time like the federal legislature does. They meet just, I think, every other year, but some of you probably know more about that than I do, being from Nevada longer than I've been here. But when they do meet, there's hundreds of bills proposed, and not all of them pass, right? Not all of them pass, and some of them don't even make it to the floor for a vote. you would want to pick an issue that has been proposed by whatever the body is. Again, whether that's the Faculty Senate at CSN, the Nevada System of Higher Education, the state of Nevada, the federal government, the United Nations, Security Council, whatever it might be, whatever policy has been proposed that has yet to be passed and ratified in whatever manner it's going to be ratified. So some topics that you should avoid, things that have been overused. Obviously, I mentioned abortion earlier. Gun control is another topic that we should probably avoid. Euthanasia, cloning, capital punishment, smoking bans, talking on cell phones while driving, school uniforms, homeschooling. These are all topics that have been overused and abused. You also want to avoid any topics that promote the use of drugs, alcohol, or any illegal or illicit behavior. And if you have any other questions about that, or there's like, for example, you want to talk about gun control. And I say, well, that's an overused topic. And you say, but I've got a new spin on gun control. There's a bill that's been proposed in the Nevada State Legislature that's different than anything else that's ever been proposed. And it's not going to be the same old capital punishment or gun control speech that you've heard 500 times before. It's going to be something new and different. Then I'm all ears. I'm willing to listen to you and hear you out about it. If it's something that's really important to you, then we can talk about it. So if there's a topic that you really want to do and it's on my list, come to me and let's discuss it. But for the most part, those are topics that have been overused. And really, if you can think of topics that meet those three criteria, they're kind of public policy issues, they're controversial, and in terms of contemporary, they're always being debated all the time. 20 years ago they would have met those criteria, and 20 years from now they probably will. Like capital punishment, for example. If there's several states right now who are talking about capital punishment bans, if they do that, then it'll turn around and in a few years, it won't be long, somebody will be arguing that we should reinstitute capital punishment, because that happened already. We already had a ban on capital punishment for years in this country, and then we brought it back. So, those kind of topics, it's just, they never really go away, and they're pretty much overused. So try to come up with something unique and interesting that your audience will be really excited to hear about. So finally, we need to talk about what the actual assignment is that you need to do. You're going to write your topic out in the form of a public policy question. You're going to write 2 proposition statements that answer the question. One side advocating for the policy, and give 3 reasons why the policy should be enacted, and one opposing the policy and give 3 reasons why it should not be enacted. So I really want you to be able to present both sides of your issue. This is going to require that you do a little bit of research. I picked a topic and did a little bit of research and cited my source, and that's fine. If you go and look at the source I've cited there, you'll see that I changed their wording a little bit, but basically this was an initial step of my research for preparing my speech. Now, if that were my topic and I were a student in the class, I would do a lot more research as time went on, but I wanted to start out, and that's what I want you to do right now. Do your initial research. So give me 2 policy statements or proposition statements, one advocating for the policy, and in that statement give me 3 reasons why the policy should be enacted, and then one opposing the policy, and in your proposition statement give me 3 reasons why it should not be. And you'll see the example in the next slide of what I did along with the source that I used. Okay, so here are my 2 topics, and I mentioned death penalty earlier and gun control were a couple that I talked about that have been problems for a long time, and I didn't want to use something that somebody might actually be doing in class, so I picked death penalty. I went to balancepolitics.org and looked at their death penalty arguments, and I kind of borrowed from there. I cited my source, and but this was my initial research just to get my topic approved, and this is what I would submit for the class. The first statement says the death penalty should be banned because the financial cost to taxpayers of capital punishment is several times that of keeping someone in prison for life. It is barbaric and violates the cruel and unusual clause of the Bill of Rights, and life in prison is a worse punishment and a more effective deterrent. Okay, so that's my proposition statement in favor of banning it. And my 3 reasons were the financial cost to taxpayers being more than keeping someone in prison for life. It's barbaric and it violates the clause in the Bill of Rights that says we can't have cruel and unusual punishment. And life in prison is a worse punishment and a more effective deterrent. My proposition statement opposing a ban on death penalty, which means I'd want to keep status quo in this case. The death penalty should not be banned because it gives closure to the victims' families who have suffered so much. DNA testing and other methods of modern crime scene analysis can now effectively eliminate almost all uncertainty to a person's guilt or innocence, and it gives prosecutors another bargaining chip in the plea bargain process, which is essential to cutting costs in the overcrowded court system. So there I've given 3 reasons why it should not be banned. And that's basically what you're going to do, and then you will submit that. Just type it up and submit it there in Canvas to the assignment, and you should be able to upload a Word file there. And that's all you've got to do, and then I will read those, and I will reply to your posting with feedback. And basically, if I'm okay with it, your topic's good, you might just get your grade and that's it. You know, you're fine. If there's a problem with your topic, I will include some feedback there. I'll say you need to think about this some more, or that some more than one person has chosen this topic, so we need to work it out, whatever it might be. But I'm not out to try and disallow people's topics. I just want you to follow those basic criteria. And remember what I told you right at the very beginning of this little short presentation is that it's about you. It's not about your topic. So don't get too stressed out about it.